Thank you, dear. Man. So it is so great to be with you. And I need to say thank you to Bammel Road again. We love coming here. We love being with you. My wife, Susan, and I are here with you. And we love it. But we also have some dear friends, family from North Atlanta, one of our shepherding families, Cody and Karen Wilson, right behind my wife, Susan, right there. They just placed membership here. You will take good care of them. They asked me, hey, we're moving to Houston. Where do we go? I said, Bammel Road. And so I am so thankful that they are here. So grateful to be with you. We have a ton of friends here. We have people in this room that we've known for over 30 years. We know people in this room that we have walked with them down the aisle when they got married. We've been at the hospitals when they've had their children. We've been at the graveside when they've lost loved ones. This is family, and if you're new here and you're not used to family being like that, you need to stick around and let it grow on you, because you will find family in this place. So I'm so thankful that you are here. Now, for those of you that haven't been here over the weekend, you got to catch up with what in the world we have been doing and why all of our voices are completely trashed as of this morning. But over the weekend, we have been thinking through what it means to be the people of God, to be people who understand the cause of Christ. So that everything we do is a because of Christ. We be because we believe in the cause. But we also understand the world in which we live. And we've been using a metaphor, and that's the rubble of the earthquakes that have ravaged Turkey and Syria. We've allowed this metaphor to speak beyond Turkey and Syria, to think about rubble worldwide and globally, community and locally, personally. And we've asked Jesus, do you have a word? Jesus, if you came upon rubble, what would you do? And Jesus says, well, I'd do what they're doing in Turkey. I would dig for life. I would come to you, and I would use every tool at my disposal. Jesus said, I'd use my bare hands to dig for you. And I would not stop digging until I found you. We spoke of a little girl who was born under the rubble. Born under the rubble. Born there. She was under the rubble for 10 hours. Everyone, including her mom and dad, were killed under the rubble. But they dug with backhoes and shovels and their bare hands till they bled, and they brought this little one out. On the outside of the rubble was her uncle, waiting to find out what had happened to his family. After a DNA test in which he could verify that he was her blood family, he was given custody. And he and his wife adopted her, and then 3 days later gave birth to their own son. Ata'a on the right, Afra'a on the left. And all weekend we have committed to say one thing. Afra, blessed are you. This little one isn't even 3 weeks old yet. But she's born into a world of rubble, and what she's going to learn before she's old enough to be in a youth group is that a group of people who know Jesus Christ are committed to rubble removal. That we're not going to stand by, walk around, or build homes on the other side of where the rubble exists. We're going to be in it, and we're going to dig through it with the confidence in the resurrection of Jesus Christ, that life can be found even amidst the rubble. So Jesus said, as David read earlier, now when he saw the crowds, he went up on a mountainside, and he sat down with his disciples, and they came to him, and he began to teach them. And we summarized his teaching this way, that there is one who sees you. So you are seen, you can be sure, and you will be filled. But there's a world that needs you, so you can be open and pure and a peace builder. But this is a life that's worth it. The cause is worth the cost. And you can be right and brave and confident. But Jesus wasn't done speaking. We pick up the text in verse 14. Jesus said, "You are the light of the world. A town built on a hill cannot be hidden. Neither do people light a lamp and then put it under a bowl. Instead, they put it on its stand, and it gives light to everyone in the house. Now, in the same way, you let your light shine where? Before others. Why? That they actually might see your good works and glorify your Father in heaven." So Jesus says, here's the thing. If you heard my 9 blessings and you know that could change Afra Ah's world, then I need you to go do it, because blessed are those who do these things. We're not here this morning to get better at just thinking about them and saying them. We're trying to be equipped so that we can go do them. Before I knew that I was going to be a minister, I was a welder. And I went to school for welding. I actually went to school for it. And one of the things that happens when you're actually in school for welding that's different when you're just playing around is they test all of your welds. You weld them, and then they either put them in a press that either pulls them apart or pushes them together, and your weld can't break or you fail. Now, I'm still a welder. I've got 3 of them. Recently, our son, who's an electrician, his trailer was broken. Brought it over to the house. We welded it up together. But as we were welding it, what was I thinking about? Those days when I was in school, being taught that you're not here just to learn about welding, you're learning to be a good welder. Because people are going to depend on your work. Jesus Christ says, I'm depending on you to do something with what you learned this morning. There's someone living in the rubble, and I need you to do something about it. Now, I want you to think about this. Jesus said that you need to be a light on a hill. But here's my question. What if your hill looks like this? Right there. And what if it's relational rubble? Yeah, what if you're in a friendship right now that's filled with rubble? What if you're in a marriage that hurts like this rubble? What if your relationship with your parents, your relationship with your children looks like that, feels like that? What if this is the way you experienced your last school board meeting? What if this is the way we're experiencing political discussions? Am I getting too close to home? What if this is religious rubble that we've got to dig through because people have been so hurt and wounded and burned by religion that when they see us coming, it reminds them of this? Can we be a light on a hill then? Now, I got to tell you something that happened. While we were here this weekend, I learned that some of our students from Uvalde, Texas were here. And I was so happy to hear that. But it doesn't take much memory to back up in time to where Uvalde was worldwide news for the school shooting. Do you remember this? A few days after it, I just posted something online. Something about Uvalde. I was traveling. I was on an airplane when I posted it. About 4 a.m. the next morning, my phone is blowing up from a couple of my friends. Don, do you see what's going on your Facebook site? No, I've been sleeping. I open Facebook, and my Facebook page looks like this. It's rubble. People all over the world going bonkers. I could not honestly read to you 3 of the things they posted. They were so laced with anger and profanity. I couldn't figure it out. I started looking at the names of the people that have posted, and I thought, I don't even know these people. And then I start noticing that some of them are from Sweden, Norway, other places in Europe, around the world. And I'm thinking, I don't know you all. How in the world are you finding me? And then one of them said, you should be ashamed of yourself. I thought, well, I've felt that before, but not over this. And then I did a little Google search, and I found out that the mayor of Uvalde, Texas, his name is Don McLaughlin, spelled exactly like mine. And people thought they were responding to him. So I was taking one. But here's what I begin to think about. People all over the world were expressing the rubble of emotion. And I had some decisions to make. What would I do? So I started private messaging them. That's what I did. And I just started sending them messages. And one of my friends who lives here in Houston, Sean Palmer, whose mom goes to our church, and I am his mother's favorite preacher. All of you that know Sean, when you see him next, you tell him that. But Sean sent me a message and said, why don't you start each private message with, "Not that Don," and then share who you are. Now here's what I want you to know. I've been that Don. I've been that Don so full of anger and insecurity and hurt I didn't know what to do with, that I couldn't figure out a set of words other than all the profanity I learned as a child. To wrap around emotions I couldn't name and I didn't know what to do with. I've been that Don. Some of you who know me know that in my second sermon ever, I got wound up and I meant to say shoot. Susan was there. Little church in Griffithville, Arkansas. We had one teenager in the youth group. He just fell over on the back row laughing his head off. L.C. Cooper was sitting there and he was adjusting his hearing aid, hoping that something else would happen after he got it adjusted. Ruby Taylor right there on the front row. Just keep on preaching, honey. I thought, not today. It's hard to recover from that word in a sermon. It's just hard to recover. But it was so embedded in me. And I remember reaching out to my father as a young man and saying, Dad, I don't know what's wrong with me, but I am so filled with all of this. And I remember asking my father, an incredible man of God who thought Jesus was right about everything. I said, Dad, have you ever struggled like this? He said, yes. And sometimes I still do. And it was like he was reaching his hand down through a hole in the rubble and scraping away some rocks so I could see for a moment a gleam of light and trust that hope could be held out for that Don. I've been that Don, but I'm not that Don anymore because of Jesus Christ. Because of rubble removers in my life. Because of trusting the promise of Jesus that in this world you will have trouble. Say it a different way with me. In this world you will have rubble. Jesus says, take heart, I've overcome the world. Whatever you're facing, whatever the mountain looks like, whether this mountain of rubble is in your marriage, in your home, in your family relationships, community relationships, whether it's your finances, your business, no matter what in the world you're buried under right now, the hand of Jesus is digging through the rubble just for you. And he dug until he died. And then he let himself be buried under the rubble so that on the third day, when from out of the tomb he came forth alive and no mountain of rubble could keep the Son of God in it, Jesus says, follow me out. I know the way. And I believe it. This is what Jesus says to us today. He said, you understand that together we will say to Ophrah, blessed are you. But Jesus said, this is what I want you to remember as you go on your way from this place this morning. That he was born of God's intent. That he was present for God's purpose. That he was destined for God's glory. But you understand, Jesus did not stay one day longer or one day less than he meant to stay. Jesus was here exactly the amount of time he meant to be here because he never intended to stay here forever. He intended for you to be the light. He said to the church, you are born of God's intent. You are present for God's purpose. And you are destined for God's glory. And now all of us stand up together. And what we've been doing this weekend is the people on this side turn to the people on this side. The people on this side turn to the people on this side. And we are going to proclaim, as we close this message, the testimony of Jesus Christ. It will be on the screen, and you say it to each other. You were born of God's intent. You are present for God's purpose. You are destined for God's glory. One more time. You are born of God's intent. You are present for God's purpose. You are destined for God's glory. Go and be light.